Have you ever thought about making money while doing absolutely nothing? No extra shifts, no side hustle grinding, no selling anything to anyone, just owning a stock and getting paid for it. That is exactly what dividend investing is. And by the end of this video, you are going to understand how it works, how to know if a dividend stock is actually worth your money, how to make your dividends grow on autopilot, and whether you need a lot of money to get started. Stay with me because this one is worth your time. So let's start from the very beginning. A dividend is money that a company pays directly to you just because you own their stock. Think of it like this. When you buy shares in a company, you become a part owner of that business. And when that business makes a profit, some of it gets shared with the owners. That is you. The payment gets deposited straight into your brokerage account. It could happen monthly, quarterly, which is 4 times a year, or annually. It completely depends on the company. Now, not every company does this. Typically, larger and more established businesses are the ones paying dividends. Think Coca-Cola, Johnson & Johnson, or big Canadian banks like TD. These companies have been around long enough that they can afford to share their profits with shareholders on a regular basis. Here's something that trips a lot of beginners up. There is a difference between the dividend amount and the dividend yield, and you need to understand both. The dividend amount is simply how many dollars you get paid per share you own. Straightforward. The dividend yield is that same amount expressed as a percentage of what the stock currently costs. Why does yield matter more? Because it tells you how much you are actually earning relative to what you are paying. If a stock costs $50 and pays $2 a year in dividends, your yield is 4%. But if the stock price drops to $40 and they still pay $2, your yield is now 5%. The yield moves even when the dividend amount stays exactly the same. So when you are comparing stocks, always look at the yield, not just the dollar amount. Now, how do you know if a company is actually a reliable dividend payer and not just doing it today and stopping tomorrow? 2 things you want to check every single time. First, look at the dividend history. Just type the company name and dividend history into Google. You want to see consistency, meaning they have never skipped a payment, and growth, meaning the amount they pay has been going up over time, even if it is just a little bit each year. Second, look for something called dividend aristocrats and dividend kings. These are real titles given to companies based on their track record. Dividend aristocrats have been paying and growing their dividends for at least 25 consecutive years. Dividend kings have been doing it for at least 50 years straight. That is half a century without missing a single payment. Companies like Coca-Cola and Johnson & Johnson fall into that category. These titles matter because they are proof of reliability. When you are choosing where to put your money, a company with that kind of record is giving you decades of evidence that they take care of their shareholders. Now let's talk about something that can genuinely change the way your portfolio grows over time. It is called a DRIP, which stands for Dividend Reinvestment Plan. Here's how it works. Instead of your dividend payment going to your bank account as cash, your broker automatically uses that money to buy more shares of the same stock. You do not have to do anything. It just happens behind the scenes. Why does this matter so much? Because of compounding. When you buy more shares with your dividends, those new shares also start earning dividends. Those dividends buy even more shares, and so on. It is a snowball effect. Slowly at first, but it builds. The beautiful part is that most brokerages offer this at zero commission. You are getting your dividends reinvested completely free. And here is the part that makes it even better. It works with fractional shares. So even if your dividend payment is not enough to buy a full share, your broker will still put that money to work and buy a fraction of one. Nothing gets wasted. A lot of people starting out are doing exactly this, watching their dividends automatically purchase 1 or 2 shares each month without adding a single dollar of new money. It feels slow in the beginning, and that is completely normal. The early stages are always the hardest to trust. But that is exactly how compounding works. The growth is quiet at first, Then it becomes very loud. Stay consistent and let the automation do the heavy lifting for you. Now, one thing that comes up a lot is the idea that you need a massive amount of money to make dividend investing worthwhile. And yes, to pull in $2,000 a month from dividends alone, you would need a significant portfolio. That is just the math. But here's the thing, nobody starts there. The goal early on is not to replace your income overnight. The goal is to build a system where your money is always working, always buying more shares, always compounding. The people who reach those big income numbers got there because they started small and stayed consistent over years. Something else worth knowing, especially if you are investing through a platform like Vanguard or any automated service. There's nothing wrong with using those tools, especially in the beginning. They help you stay disciplined. But as you get more comfortable, learning to manage your own selections gives you more control over exactly what you own and why. There is real value in understanding your own portfolio at a deeper level. Speaking of understanding your investments, one of the most powerful skills you can build as an investor is learning how to read a company's financial reports. When you look at a company's annual report, focus on a few key things. Revenue trends, meaning is the business actually growing its income over time? Net income, meaning what is left after all expenses, and the payout ratio, which tells you what percentage of earnings the company is using to pay dividends. A payout ratio above 80 or 90% can be a warning sign that dividends might not be sustainable long term. A healthy payout ratio, usually somewhere between 40 and 60%, suggests the company can keep paying and growing those dividends without stretching itself thin. These numbers are publicly available, and learning to read them gives you a real edge. On the topic of sustainability, it is always worth asking whether any investment strategy can keep delivering over the long run. That applies to every ticker you research, every fund you consider. Look at the fundamentals, check the history, and ask yourself whether the income it generates is backed by real business performance or if it just looks attractive on the surface. If you are curious about other income-producing tools like municipal bonds, the basic idea is that they are debt instruments issued by local governments, and they tend to offer tax advantages depending on where you live. They can be a useful part of a diversified income strategy, though they work differently than dividend stocks and carry their own set of considerations worth researching further. The big takeaway from everything we covered today is this: dividend investing is not complicated, but it does require patience and consistency. Understand the difference between yield and amount. Check dividend history and look for those aristocrat and king titles. Turn on your drip and let compounding do its thing over time. And as you grow, start reading financial reports so you can make confident decisions on your own. Here's the question I want you to answer down below. Are you currently reinvesting your dividends automatically, or are you taking them as cash? And if you are just starting out, what is stopping you from turning on your drip today? Drop your answer in the comments because I genuinely want to know where you are in your journey. If you learned something new today or this video helped something click for you, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you never miss the latest investing insights. It helps more than you know, and it means a lot. See you in the next one.